Greetings, brothers and sisters. Peace be with you. And greetings to all of you. Here is the news. In the beginning, here are the headlines. The President Saddam Hussein makes a statement to Fidai Saddam and to the chiefs of the tribes and the clans. Mr. Taha Yassin Ramadan, Vice President, criticizes the statement of the Arab foreign ministers that it fell short of its goal. Muhammad Saeed al-Sahaf, the information minister, declared to the reporters that our forces have destroyed 30 tanks. Angry international demonstrations against the Anglo-American aggression against Iraq. The President Saddam Hussein issued a message to the Fidai Saddam, and here is the text of that message. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, fight them until there is no sedition and religion becomes that of God's religion. To the men who carried the banner of al-Jihad and carried our name, to the Fidai Saddam, my brothers and sons, in the leadership of your brother Uday, peace be upon you. The Fidaiyuna always wished, in order to meet the enemy, in order to destroy it. Now the enemy has come to your homeland and it has deployed in such a way that it will be conducive to defeat it. And the enemy has spread its forces, and it's scattered on the roads and in the medium Al-Furat and in other places known in Iraq. Some of its columns are in such places where it is impossible for such tanks to know where they are going. And I tell you that the enemy has come to us in such a way, more than what we were hoping, in order to make it suffer great losses and in shame. My sons, remember that you are the people of redemption and the Fidaiyu Saddam, and you are the sons of courageous Iraq. And it has proven to us by your sacrifices and your sacrifices of your brothers in the armed forces that one strike against one or two tanks of the enemy, it will make him retreat. And it will make this traitor enemy retreat in the name of God and in the name of Iraq. You and the courageous people with your courageous spirit are the best that existed on the face of the earth. Follow them and strike them wherever you can. The decision that brought them to our country make them shameful before God and humanity, and they would be sorry that they have taken such a decision against the nation of Iraq and the people of Iraq. Fight them and strike them in everywhere with the same force that is known of you, and with the same force that every Iraqi, every honorable Iraqi, and in accordance with the fighting that is carried on by your brothers in the armed forces, and especially in the 11th Division in Al-Nasiriyah and the 45th Division in Al-Qasr and other places, and other Fidaiyuna in the district of Zubair and Abil Khasib, and appear to them as the right will defeat them, and make sure that the careful administration of your battles will bring an end to such an enemy, and such administration is plenty, and make sure that our sacrifices will be the least and the losses of the enemy will be the most. And remember the word that I said to you when you appeared before me in the past. Tell the Fidaiyin the greetings of my son Uday. Every one of you must remember what you said in front of me and in front of him, and he should remember his pledge and should remember his honor as an Iraqi, the son of a land that is being desecrated. And let the Fidai remember that you are carrying the honor of my name and the honor of other people. Today is the day of redemption in order to make God victorious. Fight them where God will be glorified, and your strikes and the strikes of your army will make the enemy lose its balance, and especially now where you can carry out other operations and make them lose their sights and lose their ways and become confused. Strike the enemy in places, in different places with different styles in the day and night. Strike their fronts and the rear and bring their columns under intense fire and strike them at different times and different styles and fire on their planes and stick around the targets where you think there will be hit, and do not let the enemy approach such targets. Just as it happens in other places, how the enemy has run frightened. The enemy has chosen in order to delve deeply into our land, but this was a very stupid decision, and especially when they belittled the spirit of sacrifice of the Iraqi people. And such a policy will make the enemy regret. Strike them and hit them in every place and everywhere. These days, these are the days of the great victory. It is not expected by the Iraqis alone, but it is expected by everybody in the world. God is great. God is great. Signed, Saddam Hussein, 22nd Muharram 1424 Hijrah, corresponding to the 25th of March 2003. Also, the leader Saddam Hussein issued a message to the tribal clan chiefs urging them to step up and intensify their fight against the aggressors and to make them suffer losses and force them to flee in fear. And the president said, may God protect him. In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, fight them until there is no sedition and religion becomes that of God's religion. Brothers, the sheikhs of the clans and tribes and the tribal branches in the glorious Iraq, may peace be with you. You have always said with a sense of sigh in your chests, expressed in the national Arab and patriotic stand in believing in faith and truth, that should the enemy comes to our land to find the Iraqis, we would fight him in a way that will surprise him, and the enemy will suffer great losses that will make our country and religion proud of us. Well, the enemy has come and has desecrated your land and has overcome some units, which the calculation of our strategy has required us to carry out around the major cities. Some of the enemy columns began to take certain formations and patterns that make it easy to hunt them down, especially when the enemy is threatening your tribes and families, not just the garrisons of our Iraq. Today, your turn has come. I believe strongly that every member of your tribe, and they are genuine Iraqis and Arabs, enjoying honor and faith, are only waiting for an honorable call from the sheikhs of the tribes and clans to rise and fight the enemy in every orchard and on every road. Brothers, fight them with all your tribes and clans, and let the enemy find your resolve and begins to suffer serious losses. Even if the losses are not sometimes great, you will see how the enemy will flee, because he is a stranger to the land of Iraq, and he is wrong and an evil aggressor. All life loses its meaning and significance and can be measured by only one day or many days of honor and glory. Thousands of guns will rise around you, and do not wait to receive orders from sources where you have been accustomed to receive in the past. Every Iraqi is a leader in his locale. When he is cut off from receiving directions, and every tribal sheikh and every glorious Iraqi man and every Iraqi woman can become a jihad banner and a big rallying point for his comrades and groups. The banner of God is great. Fight them as groups and groups. And when the enemy moves in columns, strike its front and the rear with every means. Because if you paralyze its front and the rear of the columns, the whole column will come to a halt, whereby it becomes a suitable target for the fire of your weapons. And if the enemy halts, attack him, and if it scatters in order to take a fighting formation, stay away from him and do not face him when he is regrouping. And if the enemy seeks a shelter, taunt him and launch attack against him day and night until he's tired, and target the vehicles that cross the roads away from big concentration points. Fight the enemy just as he is being fought by your brothers, the Mujahideen, around the Nasiriyah, by the heroic member of the 11th Division and the Al-Qar, and as it is being fought by your brothers in the 45th and your brothers in Al-Qasr, and fight him just as your brothers are fighting him in Al-Fawl, Abil Khasib, Wal Anbar, and the people of the cities around the Al-Basra, just as the people of our beloved Basra are determined to fight the enemy, and if when the enemy thought it can enter that city, they will be shamefully disappointed. Fight the enemy in the central Furat, in the Najaf, Al-Muthanna, Wal-Qadisiyah, before he is victorious. May God not allow that. Fight him. No one doubts in your Arab nationalistic honorable resolve and faith, and that you are a people of faith. And remember the sword of our grandfather Ali, may peace be upon him, and remember all that makes men in a situation like this, that they will not have the painful sigh, what I mentioned earlier, in their chest anymore, and that they may reserve for their children and grandchildren, after the grace of God, a record of honor and honorable stand. And remember your grandfathers and their stands in the revolution of the 1920s, and how we can take their stand as an example when the enemy suffered from that illusion. And if you are fighting, if you're waiting for an order, with this message we issue to all of you a command of faith, religion, and homeland and jihad. Fight them. May God torture them at your hands, and may God make you victorious. And God is great. God is great, and God is great. Signed, Saddam Hussein, the 22nd of Muharram al-Haram, 1424, corresponding to 25th of March, 2003. We continue now the rest of this newscast. Vice President Taha Yassin Ramadan criticized the position of the Arab League and said that it fell short of expectation. its issued condemnation is not enough. And he said in a press conference that the Arabs possess enough resources that can be used against the United States, such as stopping oil production for the aggressors and close the airspace, seaport, borders in the face of any activity of the aggressive countries. It has been said that the Common Defense Agreement is dead. There are plenty of decisions and resources that could have come out of this meeting, but it did not. The aggression has happened, and in its most ugly form. Why do the Arabs provide the aggressors with oil in order to operate their vehicle of aggression? Why don't the Arabs decide to stop producing oil for the benefit of aggressive countries? Why don't they close their skies, land and sea lanes against any activity by the countries of aggression? Isn't this their right? Such measures were taken by many other non-Arab countries. Why don't they demand the closing of American and British embassies instead of beating up their own people when they march towards those embassies? They defend and protect the people who are in the embassies of the countries of the aggressors, but they do not pay any attention and they do not offer any protection for the safety of the people of Iraq. They do not sever relations because they are unable to, as we have noticed. But they say to them, your people in your embassies must leave because we cannot bear the responsibility of protecting them. But even this did not take place. On the contrary, what happened was exactly the opposite. The American administration asked 60 countries around the world that have Iraqi embassies to close them down. Mr. Muhammad Saeed al-Sahaf, the Minister of Information, said in a press conference that the heroes of the Iraqi army and the fighters of the Iraqi Ba'ath Party and the tribal people in the city of Al-Muthanna have destroyed 30 cars and tanks. And the ministers added that the media will soon know about the US and the UK losses. They would know them in full. Until around 10:30 or 10:40, they burned some 30 cars, tanks, and armored personnel carriers. And they also destroyed 3 enemy helicopters. May God bless and the fighters of the Ba'ath Party. No. The rest of them, they ran away. The Americans fled away. As far as the fighting by the heroes of the Iraqi Arab Ba'ath Party, the Ba'ath Party, last night, what happened was unbelievable indeed. In fact, it was revealed the cowardice of the American soldiers in an unexpected way. We were not expecting the fighters of the Socialist Ba'ath Party did not imagine that the Americans were such insignificant minions despite their tremendous machinery. They started fleeing. These people started fleeing and in all directions. In fact, the heroes and the fighters, the heroes of the Ba'ath Party, were magnificent in the Al-Muthanna district and especially in the southern part. And God willing, when the picture is complete, we will let you know what exactly were the losses. In the Souq al-Shuyukh district, this is, I can report to you for the first time.
The second war theater battlefield is Souq al-Shuyukh after Muthanna, and near there is a bridge which link the surroundings with the highway.
It links the surrounding with this fast highway. It connects the Al-Furat area. There was a battle there. The aggressors, 8 aggressors were killed by the fighters of the Ba'ath Party, and 3 armored personnel carriers were destroyed. What is more important here is that one of the attackers was a woman. Her name is Maysoon Hamid Abdullah, an Iraqi woman, and she is a hero indeed. Maysoon Hamid Abdullah. Yes, I am going to spell her name for you. Her name is Maysoon Hamid Abdullah. Destroyed one of the APC by using an RPG in the Souq al-Shuyukh district in the south of Iraq. In Nasiriyah, this is, I'm going to spell it for you in Arabic, in near Souq al-Shuyukh. Also, the American mercenaries tried to attack a residential area near a bridge. There is a bridge there that connects the road with the fast highway, and that's why it is called the fast bridge. The heroes of the Socialist Ba'ath Party appeared and attacked those American aggressors, and they killed 8 of them. 8 American soldiers were killed, and they hit 3 armored personnel carrying. What happened that in this battle, that an Iraqi woman using RPG by the name of Maysoon Hamid Abdullah used an RPG and fired and destroyed at one of the armored personnel carriers and destroyed it. In the Nasiriyah city, Nasiriyah, in the city of Nasiriyah last night, the mercenaries intensified their cowardice shelling on peaceful civilians in the residential streets. Despite the fact that it was night, the heroes of the Iraqi Socialist Ba'ath Party resisted the aerial shelling by helicopters that were attacking the residential areas. Also, at the same intersection, there is an intersection there that leads the road from Al-Ahwar upward. An American unit came to this intersection. The heroes of the Socialist Party and the populace were awaiting them as if they knew that they were coming. Also, they resisted them and they killed a number of them. I have the number here, 3, but perhaps the number is more, and the rest of them escaped. Dr. Muhammad Mahdi Saleh, the Minister of Commerce, said that the Jordanian authorities have stopped the entry of supplies that were contracted for with other countries. They were stopped at the border. And the minister said in a press conference that the American aggressor shelled the wheat mills in Al-Basra. Today, Iraq has $21 billion in the Iraqi accounts to buy food and medicine stuff as contracted for, that have been contracted for the fighters and the medicine and food stuff that are on their way to be shipped, and in addition to the water and the health supplies, and as was in the understanding memorandum, amount to some $13 billion, $924 million, including $8 billion and $117 million are for the food that have arrived at the border, at the Jordanian border, but they were stopped, preventing them from entering Iraq. There are also $7,287 million contracts for food and medicine that have been delayed and awaiting shipment by the United Nations. It is requested of the Secretary General of the United Nations that if the United Nations considers itself an organization of peace and security and an organization that prevents the punishment of people and not be subservient to the evil American and British will, then the Secretary General of the United Nations must allow immediately, in accordance with the United Security Council Resolution 986, for the entry of the food and medical stuff to Iraq in accordance with the agreements signed by Iraq and have been sufficient for the consumption of the Iraqi people for 2 years. But the evil administrations of Bush and Blair are after the people of Iraq, not just by daily bombarding and shelling them and shelling our citizens and invade our sacred homeland in which they will be buried, but they are also preventing medicine and food to reach our Iraqi people. We propose that this murderous position by the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Britain to signal the United Nations Secretary General that violates the Resolution 986, which estimates that oil revenues amounted to some $64 billion. Until now, the foodstuff that have arrived to Iraq have only reached to $21 billion that were distributed on the Iraqi people in the past years. But we presently have stuff that were contracted for that are waiting in ships close to the border areas. Some of them in Jordan were returned from the border and were redirected to an area called Arshif and unloaded there. I hope that our brothers in Ruwaishid in Jordan to act as they always have, responsibly, just as they did in 1991, and that they would not become subservient to the evil American will, and to continue to ship those material to Iraq in accordance with contracts signed by Iraq. And we say that as a country, we do not need any human assistance. We have enough resources to meet the needs of the Iraqi people, just as it happened in the last years. The Deputy Minister of Petroleum, Dr. Muhammad Amr Rashid, said that what is happening against Iraq is a crime against humanity, not just a crime against the Iraqi people. And he said in a tour of the Al-Dora refinery that was shelled by the Americans, that Bush and Blair have evil intentions that have become clear to the world, and said that the people of Iraq is defending his honor courageously to the amazement of the enemy.
During the last few nights, quite heavy bombing on many targets.
There have been heavy bombing during last night. I'm not going to talk about the details, but what is important to show by being here, to show our appreciation and to support us and to support our people. And what is happening to the Iraqi people is a crime against humanity, not just a crime against the Iraqi people. It is even a crime against the American and the British people indirectly. You will see how we are suffering, and I am sure that there are many families in Britain and in the United States who are also suffering as a result of this war. This war is imperialistic. The American President Bush and the Prime Minister Blair have evil intentions. We are doing nothing but defending our land. We're defending our honor, and our cause is a just cause. We will not allow the American administration to dominate Iraq. The American and the British forces did not come to defend Iraq. We did not attack their country. Why do they want to attack our country? Why are they doing this? They promised their people that they would be greeted with flowers. How can any people in the world be welcomed as invaders? We are now in the 6th day of the war. We are in a small area here, a district called Al-Qasr, and the people here are fighting courageously for their land. The American and the British soldiers are defending nothing. They are Bush and Blair grand schemes. They are not fighting for humanity. Bush and Blair are fighting to advance their own interests. This is a crime against humanity. the presence of our guest here, you will see that our people and colleagues are around us in this refinery. It is not easy for them to put their lives in danger and jeopardy, but they know that this crime is against humanity, because at the end we will crush the heads of the invaders and to rid the whole world of their poison. Our main interest now is to defend our country, our security, and we have no other option. There is no alternative. The invaders are doing nothing but trying to deceive the whole world.